At my mother-in-law's birthday party, I accidentally spilled wine on her dress. Before I could even say sorry, she screamed at me in front of everyone, calling me a stupid maid. The whole room went quiet. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, judging, whispering. My face burned with embarrassment, and my hands were shaking. I wanted to disappear right there. Her name is Gloria. She's my husband Ethan's mother, rich, proud, and always trying to make me feel small. I married Ethan a year ago, and ever since, I've been trying to fit into his wealthy family. I come from a simple background. My parents worked hard, and I was raised to be polite and respectful. But in Gloria's eyes, that makes me less. The party was held at their big house in Connecticut. Everything was perfect. The expensive decorations, the fancy guests, the soft music. I was careful the whole night, trying not to make a mistake. When I reached across the table to pass her the cake knife, my hand bumped the wine glass. It spilled right onto her silver dress. I gasped and reached for a napkin, but before I could help, she stood up, glaring at me. "You stupid maid," she shouted. The words hit me like a slap. People stared. Some tried to hide their laughter. I looked at Ethan, hoping he would defend me, say something, anything. But he just sat there, silent, his eyes fixed on his plate. That silence hurt more than her words. I mumbled an apology and ran to the restroom. I locked the door and cried quietly, not wanting anyone to hear. I thought about how hard I'd tried to be accepted, how many times I'd ignored her little insults, her fake smile. But this time felt different. Something inside me broke. When I finally came back, the party went on as if nothing had happened. Gloria was laughing again, pretending to be sweet. I sat at the edge of the table, invisible, trying to hold myself together. Ethan leaned over and whispered, "Just let it go." But how could I? That night, I promised myself I'd never let them make me feel small again. I rushed into the restroom, my heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. The laughter and whispers from the dining room followed me like an echo. My reflection in the mirror looked broken. Red eyes, trembling lips make up ruin. I turned on the tap just to drown out the noise in my head. My hands were cold, and I couldn't stop shaking. I wasn't angry yet. I was just hurt, deeply hurt, in a way I'd never felt before. I stayed there for a while, hoping everyone would forget I existed. I thought maybe Ethan would come to check on me, to tell me it was all going to be okay. But when I finally stepped out, trying to act calm, he was standing by the hallway with his phone in his hand. He didn't look worried. He didn't even look sorry. He just sighed and said softly, "Raya, just let it go." Those 4 words cut through me. Let it go. How could he say that after what just happened? I wanted to scream, to ask him why he didn't stand up for me, but I didn't. I just nodded and walked past him, pretending I didn't care. Inside, I felt something shift, like a door closing. When I returned to the table, Gloria was laughing with her friends, acting as if nothing had happened. She caught my eye for a second, and the faint curl of her lips told me everything. That smirk, that quiet, cruel satisfaction, said she'd done it on purpose. It wasn't about the wine. It was about reminding everyone who had the power in that. No one mentioned the incident again. The party carried on, glasses clinking, people talking, music playing. I sat silently, smiling when I needed to, nodding when someone spoke to me. But inside, I was somewhere else, somewhere far away from that table. I saw how they all looked at me, not with kindness, but with curiosity, as if I were a guest who had stayed too long. That night, I understood something clearly for the first time. They didn't truly accept me. They tolerated me because of Ethan. I wasn't family to them. I was decoration. And from that moment, I promised myself one thing. I would never let them see me broken again. I met Ethan 3 years ago on a quiet afternoon at the hospital where I worked. He had come to visit a friend who'd been in an accident. He was warm, funny, and easy to talk to. We started seeing each other soon after, and everything felt natural. He always told me he admired how humble I was, that money didn't matter to him. When he said he loved my heart more than anything else, I believed him completely. Our relationship grew fast. He would bring me flowers after long shifts, pick me up for dinner, and make me laugh after exhausting days. I thought I'd found someone who truly saw me, not for what I had, but for who I was. When he proposed, I didn't hesitate. I imagined a life filled with love, respect, and simple happiness. After the wedding, things began to change in quiet, subtle ways. Moving into his family's large estate was the first big step. I left my nursing job because he said I didn't have to work anymore, that I deserved rest after years of hard effort. At first, it felt nice, the big house, the elegant dinners, the calm surrounding. But soon, that comfort began to feel like a cage. Gloria, his mother, ran the house as if she were the queen. She liked to remind everyone that nothing happened without her approval. She'd make remarks that sounded polite on the surface, but always carried a sting underneath. "Oh, you're wearing that dress again, Raya? It's cute, very simple." Or, "Your accent is adorable, dear. It gives you a kind of country charm." She smiled while saying it, but her eyes always told the truth. At first, I laughed it off, thinking I was being too sensitive. But over time, those little comments piled up. Every dinner, every family event, there was always something. The way I held a fork, the way I spoke, even the way I greeted the guests. It was like she was testing me, waiting for me to prove I didn't belong. Ethan never noticed, or maybe he chose not to. Whenever I brought it up, he'd say, "That's just how she is." I wanted to believe him, but deep down, I knew something was slipping away. The man who once made me feel safe was now standing quietly beside the woman who made me feel small. One quiet evening, I was walking down the hall after finishing dinner alone. The doors were half open near the study, and I heard voices, Gloria's sharp tone and Ethan's softer. I didn't mean to listen, but when I heard my name, I stopped. Her voice carried easily through the room. "She's temporary, Ethan. You know that. She doesn't fit the family image. People talk, and you deserve better." For a second, I couldn't breathe. I waited for him to speak up, to say something, anything, in my defense. But there was only silence, followed by a long sigh. Then Ethan said quietly, "I know, Mom." Those 3 words hit harder than anything she'd ever said to my face. I pressed my hand over my mouth to stop a sound from escaping. My chest tightened as I realized he agreed with her. I stepped back slowly, trying not to make a noise, and went straight to our room. My heart felt heavy, and the house that once seemed elegant now felt cold and hollow. Every wall, every light, every framed picture looked like part of a life I didn't belong in. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing, letting the truth sink in. He wasn't my protector anymore. He was part of the problem. That night, I didn't cry. I was past tears. Instead, a strange calm filled me, the kind that comes when something inside finally breaks. I knew I couldn't show what I'd heard. Gloria loved power, and if she sensed my pain, she'd only enjoy it more. So I made a quiet choice. I would stop fighting for their approval. From that day, I changed how I behaved. I smiled when they expected me to, spoke softly when spoken to, and never reacted to her little jabs. I became the perfect picture of politeness, the woman they thought they controlled. But inside, I was no longer theirs to hurt. I watched, I listened, I learned. Every word, every glance, every whisper told me something new about who they really were. Ethan thought my silence meant peace, but it was preparation. I wasn't going to beg for love anymore. I would wait, stay quiet, and one day, when the moment came, they'd see just how wrong they were about me. After that night, I stopped waiting for kindness from Ethan or his mother. I started thinking carefully about what I needed to do for myself. When Ethan left for work each morning, I sat by the window, planning silently. I looked through my old nursing contacts and reached out to one of my former colleagues. Within a week, I found a position as a private nurse for an elderly woman named Margot. I didn't tell Ethan the full truth. I said I wanted to stay busy, and he didn't bother to ask more. That was fine with me. The first time I met Margot, she was sitting near her fireplace, wrapped in a soft blanket, with eyes that noticed everything. She'd recently had surgery and needed full-time care. Her home was smaller than Gloria's mansion but felt warmer, filled with books, plants, and quiet music. I began working for her every day, managing her medicine, helping with meals, and keeping her company through long afternoons. Over time, something shifted. I wasn't just her nurse, I became her friend. Margot liked to talk, and I liked to listen. She had lived a long, interesting life. She'd built a successful company from nothing, fought through failures, and still carried herself with grace. One day, she looked at me and said, "You remind me of myself when I was young, patient but stronger than you think." Her words touched me more than I expected. No one had spoken to me that way in a long time. Weeks passed, and she began to trust me deeply. I helped her walk again, cooked for her, and stayed through difficult nights when the pain returned. She would sometimes hold my hand and say, "You're my angel, right?" Hearing that made something inside me heal a little. It felt like I finally had someone who saw my heart, not my background. When her recovery improved, she called me into her study one morning. Her tone was serious but kind. "You've given me more than care. You've given me peace. I want to give something back." I didn't understand at first, but she smiled gently and handed me an envelope. "I think you'll know what to do with this." Inside wasn't just money. It was an opportunity. A door quietly opening toward a future I could finally build on my own terms. One morning, as sunlight streamed through Margot's living room, she asked me to sit with her. Her voice carried that calm strength I'd come to admire. "Raya," she said, "I've been thinking. I still own part of my company, and I need someone I trust to manage a new wellness branch. You have the heart, the patience, and the discipline I'm looking for." I stared at her, speechless. She smiled gently and continued, "The position comes with real responsibility, and a salary that matches it." When she mentioned the number, I felt my breath catch. It was more than Ethan earned in a year. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to cry out of relief. Another part couldn't believe it was real. Margot saw the doubt in my face and said, "You've taken care of everyone else long enough. Now it's time to take care of yourself." That simple sentence felt like a door opening after years of being locked away. I accepted without hesitation, though I didn't tell Ethan or his mother. At home, I behaved as though nothing had changed. I woke up early, made breakfast, smiled when spoken to, and stayed quiet when they mocked me. Ethan still acted distant, spending late nights on his phone, while Gloria continued her usual routine of subtle insults and forced smiles. To them, I was still the quiet wife who didn't know her place. They had no idea how much that image now protected me. Every morning before leaving for work, Ethan thought I was helping an old woman recover. He had no clue I was stepping into a new office, leading a team, making real decisions, and earning my own money. I started saving again, not small amounts this time, but enough to build a life without their shadow hanging over me. Each day, I felt my heart grow lighter. The pain that once filled my chest began to fade, replaced by a calm strength. When Gloria threw another remark about how some women just aren't born elegant, I simply smiled and agreed. Inside, I laughed quietly because I knew the truth. Soon, the woman she looked down on would no longer need their approval, their money. My freedom had already begun. They just hadn't noticed yet. One afternoon, while leaving a meeting, I stopped by a small restaurant near downtown to grab a coffee. As I waited in line, I noticed a familiar voice behind the laughter coming from a corner table. When I turned my head slightly, my heart froze. Ethan was sitting there, his hand resting comfortably over another woman's. I blinked, hoping I was wrong, but then she looked up, and recognition hit me hard. Lila, Gloria's friend's daughter. The same woman Gloria always praised, the one she said had the grace and class of a true lady. They were leaning close, whispering, smiling in a way that only lovers do. The air around them felt thick with secrets. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. My mind ran through every dinner, every late night he said he was working. Every time Gloria hinted that Ethan needed someone better suited for the family. It all made sense now. I realized this wasn't just betrayal by a husband, it was a plan shaped by his mother's hand. I could have walked up to them, caused a scene, demanded answers. But instead, a strange calm washed over me. I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone, and quietly took a picture. Lila laughed at something he said, completely unaware. I didn't say a word. I just watched for a moment longer, then turned around and walked out. My steps were steady, my breathing even. I felt nothing but clarity. That drive home was silent. The city lights blurred past my window, and for the first time, I didn't feel pain, only certainty. I knew exactly what I needed to do next. When I entered the house, I found Ethan sitting on the couch, pretending to be exhausted from meetings. I smiled softly, pretending I believed him. "You must be tired," I said, setting his dinner down like always. My voice didn't shake once. Later that night, while he slept, I sat at my desk with a notepad and my laptop. Every decision I made was deliberate. I organized my finances, copied important documents, and set things in motion quietly. There were no tears, no anger, just focus. I wasn't going to beg or argue. I was planning my freedom. The next chapter of my life would begin without noise, without warning, and without them. A full year passed before I saw them again. In that time, my world transformed quietly but completely. The wellness branch I managed under Margot's company had grown beyond anyone's expectations. My name began appearing in articles, interviews, and charity features. I'd learned how to carry myself with confidence, how to walk into any room and not feel small. Success had replaced the ache that used to live inside me. Then, one morning, an invitation arrived in the mail, Gloria's birthday celebration. The envelope was heavy in gold, just like last year. I hadn't spoken to Ethan or his mother since the night I left. The invitation wasn't meant for me. I knew that instantly. But something about it made me smile. I didn't need approval to attend. I was no longer the shy woman they once pitied. I decided I would go, not out of spite, but to close the final page of that old life. When I arrived, the same mansion stood tall, shining under soft evening light. The same crowd filled the hall, elegant dresses, polished laughter, and eyes that always measured worth. I walked in wearing a simple but graceful gown, my posture calm, my expression serene. Conversations paused as people recognized me. Whispers spread through the crowd, not in mockery this time, but in surprise and admiration. Someone murmured, "Isn't that Raya Lewis? The new wellness director everyone's talking about." Gloria turned, her smile freezing when she saw me. Her gaze swept over my outfit, searching for something to criticize, but she found nothing. "Oh," she said finally, voice tight. "You decided to join us again?" Her tone carried the same arrogance as before, but this time, it didn't touch me. I smiled softly and replied, "I thought it was time to celebrate real growth." She tried to laugh it off, but the guests around her were already congratulating me, asking questions about my work, praising the success I had built. For once, she was no longer the center of attention. I watched her composure crack as her friends turned toward me, admiring the woman she had tried to destroy. Before I left, I leaned closer and whispered just loud enough for her to hear. "Careful, Gloria. Wouldn't want to spill your reputation this time." Then I walked away, my heels steady, my head high, leaving her frozen in silence, surrounded by the truth she couldn't hide from it. After that night, word about the party spread quickly. People talked more about Gloria's silence than her celebration. A few days later, Ethan called me. His voice was softer than I remembered, almost hesitant. "Raya," he began, "can we meet? I just need to explain." I hesitated, but curiosity made me agree. We met at a quiet cafe, the same place where we once used to laugh together after. Now it felt like a meeting between strangers. He looked tired, older somehow. His eyes searched my face, but I kept my expression calm. "I made a mistake," he said finally, his voice low. "I was confused. I shouldn't have listened to her or pushed you away." He reached across the table, but I didn't move. Hearing him say the words didn't bring satisfaction or anger. It just brought clarity. The man sitting in front of me was no longer the person I had once loved. I took a slow breath before answering. "Ethan," I said gently, "I forgive you." His eyes brightened, hope flickering for a moment. Then I continued, "But forgiveness doesn't mean we start over. It just means I'm done carrying what you did." His face fell as he realized I wasn't coming back. I smiled softly, not out of bitterness, but because I finally felt free. "You taught me something," I said quietly. "Peace isn't something someone gives you. You have to build it yourself." He tried to speak again, but I stood up before he could. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I added. Then I turned and walked away. The air outside felt light, almost new. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't walking away from pain. I was walking toward peace. In the months that followed, I focused on my work and myself. The success I'd built wasn't about money or revenge. It was proof that I could rise without hurting anyone. My quiet strength had done what shouting never could. People often say revenge is sweet, but for me it was peace, steady, calm, and lasting. I didn't need to destroy them to win. All I needed was to reclaim myself, and that was more powerful than anything they could ever take from me. Sometimes life forces you to make a mess just to see who truly cares enough to help you clean it. I used to think that spilling that glass of wine was the worst moment of my life, but now I see it was the beginning of everything that saved me. That night showed me who I was surrounded by. Not family, not love, but people who only valued what they could control. It took losing their approval to find my own worth. When I look back now, I no longer feel anger. I feel gratitude, not for what they did, but for what it taught me. Every cruel word, every quiet humiliation, every lonely night pushed me toward strength I didn't know I had. And when I met Margot, life reminded me that kindness can still exist in unexpected places. She didn't just give me a chance. She gave me belief. Her trust rebuilt the confidence I thought I'd lost forever. Today, I wake up every morning proud of the woman I've become. I work with people who respect me, who see value in my heart and my work. I live peacefully, surrounded by things I've earned on my own. The noise, the judgment, the false smiles, they're all behind me now. I've learned that healing doesn't come from revenge. It comes from choosing peace when bitterness is easier. If I could speak to the woman I was back then, I'd tell her this. Never let someone else's wealth or power decide your worth. You don't need to prove anything to people who will never understand your value. Keep standing tall, keep your kindness, and let your strength speak louder than their pride. Sometimes the hardest moments are the ones that shape us most. You may spill a little wine, you may be laughed at, but if you keep your heart open, you'll find that what's broken can still bloom again. So if my story touched you, remember to share it, like it, and tell someone who needs to hear it, that no matter how small others make you feel, you are already enough just as you are.